We're gonna start. Oh, darn! See, I'm off my game, bro. You'll appreciate this, comrade. This is one of my favorite songs by Adam Gottlieb of One Love. His album was nominated for Best by the Chicago Reader, which is a huge deal. It's called After Capitalism. A little bit loud, but let me lower that down. This is for all of us who like to write and have to market. Capitalism, I won't have to market my music or my books.
Oh, it's got a good sound.
It's good, it's good. He's got a great voice. So that's my comrade Adam Gottlieb. Cool.
Yeah, I saw your interview with him. It was really interesting, actually. I didn't get through the whole thing in time, but...
You know, Adam Gottlieb, he's phenomenal. And he used to be a slam poet, a very prolific slam poet, renowned in Chicago. But hey viewer, welcome. Is that your wife?
Hi. It may well be. If it is,
welcome. Yes, you're amazing. So we have the honor and privilege of having Joe Sale. Is that how you say your last name, or is it Saleh?
Yeah. As British as you possibly can.
Sale. I can't do Brit. But listen, it's a huge honor for me to have you on Radical Books and Politics. One, because it's been a little bit dormant, but it's just so brilliant to have you. And Joe and I talked a little bit beforehand because he is also my editor and phenomenal editor and writer. And so we're going to talk about his books. And where's the feature? Oh, dude, it's in my backpack. It's in my backpack. My backpack's way over there.
Are you looking
for this? Which, by the way, Ross Jeffrey, shout out to Ross Jeffrey, said Dark Clarity was your best work. And so, Joe, tell my viewers a little bit about yourself.
Oh, that's very kind. And Ross is very kind to say that as well. He's been a great supporter of my work, and likewise, I like to think I've supported him, and we've grown up together as brothers in this literary endeavor. So
nice.
It's been great. I am a British writer. I was born in Bournemouth, which is on the very south coast of the UK, right by the sea, and I am a horror, sci-fi, fantasy author, and I'm also an editor and a ghostwriter as well, or was a ghostwriter. I still do a little bit, but not as much because it's very demanding work, but it is very rewarding as well. And yeah, sorry.
No, I'm just fascinated by that. So was it like, I'm sorry, I'm going to get into the interview right away.
Yeah, let's just do it. Let's just go.
A million questions. So you were a ghost writer, and when you ghost write, is it for like autobiographies or what kind of ghost writing did you do?
Yeah, I did a huge range, actually. I did autobiographies. I did business books. Or books on like technology and adaptability, and a huge range of topics, some of which I was au fait with to start with, and that's kind of why I was chosen to ghostwrite those projects. Others I had to do a hell of a lot of research to follow up on them, and obviously you're always in a dialogue with the author, and they're giving you materials and resources and things to kind of craft. It is a really fascinating process. As I say, it's incredibly demanding.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's not for everyone, I don't think. But it can be really rewarding, and you meet a really diverse range of interesting people with really interesting views and knowledge, and you of course can mine all that for fiction writing later on. I
was going to say, there's something to be said about that, because I'm sure that you also, in the process of writing these books, because I think writing a book is, the only thing I can think that's maybe a little more elevated in terms of learning new concepts is teaching, because you have to know the material. Mm-hmm. But I imagine that you came across a lot of technical facts or how to build things or what have you. That's amazing. That really is.
Yeah, and the inspirational stories as well. I mean, I can't say too much about them because, I'm under NDA for some of them. Just reveal which books are on the market.
Which is your favorite? Just kidding. No.
Yeah. So I can't say too much, sadly, but suffice to say that some of the clients I work with are really inspirational people with like amazing stories and stories that deserve to be written, but they felt they couldn't necessarily execute themselves, and so they,
Sure. Yeah, and I gotta say that I've seen some horrendous books being written by the writer, and the story was good, but the execution was just ugh. But I do think that is a place where a ghostwriter definitely could be used, because at first I'm an English professor by trade, and to me I'm like plagiarism, but no, I mean it's a legitimate craft, and so I would say that had these people had the coin to hire a ghostwriter, the book would have been one legible and effective. Welcome, viewers. We are talking to Joseph Sale, author of Dark Hilarity, and you want to go by Joe, right? So
Joe's great. Yeah.
So, tell us about your work. Tell us about Dark Hilarity. What inspired that? Oh, I hate that question. No, strike that.
I'm happy to answer it if you want.
No, I hate that question. Do you think that Dark Hilarity took you to a different level as a writer, and why was that?
Wow, that's an awesome question. Yeah, I think it did. I had a period where I finished writing a trilogy called the Black Gate trilogy, which is what I'm known for, and I do put known in a heavy quotation marks because I'm not that well known. But that was, I think, what people most associated with me, and that is a kind of sci-fi fantasy horror epic about a serial killer who serves these dark gods. It was semi-Lovecraftian cosmic horror.
Cool.
It was a fantastic story, and it was driven by utter madness, really. And I often used to say that that book was writing me. I wasn't writing it. And the main character, Craig Smiley, was telling me what to do in a way.
You know what? And that is fine. And it happens that way, and that's okay. You're cool, brother. You're sane. You're cool.
Yeah, well, I think creativity at its deepest level is receptivity, right? It's not speaking, it's listening. When I do my best work, I'm letting something else channel through me. And I think after the Black Gate went, I finished it. I didn't know where to go, and I kept trying to do things consciously with my mind, forcing it with intellect. And there was nothing there. And so I had to have this fallow period, this dry spell, in order to absorb something new. And lots of things happened. I got married to my wonderful wife, and I went on trips, and slowly this new narrative emerged, which was very different in many ways to the Black Gate, and I do think of a different caliber of writing to the Black Gate in many ways.
That's beautiful. It's funny because I was talking to Wahid, who I interviewed last Sunday. And it was in my concept, and I'm going to totally botch this up. I should have looked it up. The author of Eat, Drink, Pray, Love, she was talking about how an American poet, who again, name I can't remember, the American poet, she was interviewing her, right? And this was a prolific poet. Shame on me for not knowing. But what she said, grasping her poetry was like a force moving through her. And if she didn't move fast enough to capture the poem, then it would move on to someone else. Now, I do believe there is such a thing. I believe in God, okay, flat out. I'm not a crazy right-wing Christian, but I do believe that inspiration and creativity comes from a source, which is good. However, I don't like it when writers and artists are like, well, we're waiting for the muse to inspire me. No, motherfucker. Yeah. This is a daily discipline. Get your hands on the guitar, get your hands on a book, on the keyboard, do some research every day. Maintain your discipline. You know what I'm saying? I think it's a combination of both. What do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah, totally. I was agreeing with you 100%. I feel it's that balance between the two. I think Stephen King said, amateurs sit and wait for inspiration, and the rest of us just get up and go to work, which I think is really good. But at the same time, you cannot force these things. And, the Greeks had the myth of the 9 muses. Each muse, who are women, by the way, interestingly, are responsible for a different form of...
Because women create life.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. My PhD, that seems like a nerd. My PhD is in rhetoric and composition. So I studied the Greeks, the Romans, which is so
yeah.
But I think there was a lot of truth, and I gotta give it to the Greeks. I mean, and the Romans too. Like they lived a pretty chill lifestyle when they were elitists, right? But they had that space to think and create and teach small groups of students like we all wish we could. So there is something to be said for not forcing a concept. And I agree. Whenever I tried, because I'm assuming you're a pantser, not a plotter. Like a pantser is somebody who writes by the seat of their pants. So
Yeah.
what are you, do you think?
Well, it's interesting. I've developed something which I call the 5-act structure, which is partly modeled on the Greek 5-act dramatic structure, and that is something.
Can you share that? Can you share it with us?
Yeah, sure. I share it freely. I don't believe in putting a patent on it. This is something I've discovered, but it's not really mine. It's something that I've, that's been used for thousands of years by a huge array of different writers from different cultures, and it's not mine in that sense.
Right.
But I guess I use this structure not to hamstring or force my work into shape, but I use it to problem solve, because I've noticed this pattern, and the great Greek writers, the great English writers, many cultures, they all use this, Japanese writers. Got to notice this kind of pattern in storytelling. So you have Act 1, which is your inciting incident. Shit goes down. I'm allowed to swear? Well,
fuck yeah, dude. I swear all the time.
It's too late now.
No, dude, swear loud.
Stuff happens, and
it happens.
Inciting incident. There's a catalyst. Act 2 is there's a complication. There's a setback of some kind. Act 3 is there's a turning point. So your protagonist gains the upper hand after it. So there's a crisis, and then they gain the upper hand. Act 4 is a descent into hell, and Act 5 is a catharsis.
That's interesting. I have something similar, not quite. I always start with tension. And then I have a comrade, Nelson Peary, who passed away, and I've applied the model to a lot of great works of literature, films, but I always start with tension and a conflict. My main character has to have a desire or a goal.
Yeah, that's great.
And then for me, the conflicts escalate. Conflict, struggle, resolution. And there may be a full resolution, and maybe an internal conflict, an external conflict, and then escalates up until the climax, right? But I've never broken it down. That is pretty damn dope.
It's useful for solving problems, I find, and often when I see stories that are starting to break down, like the pacing is wrong or the character arcs aren't satisfying.
Exactly. Do you I have I'm sorry, I'm talking about all these other writers, but hey, hello, thank you, Facebook user, for love, and you're getting some love, bro. Okay, so I have a comrade who is a poet writing his novel, beautifully written, Matsudio, who was talking about his novel concept, and he was saying that all of the characters have a goal. And I'm like, I don't think I set it up that way, because I think of the mains as the ones that are dynamic, and they're going to change. But the flat characters or the side characters, maybe they have goals, but they basically remain the same. So that's why I don't give everybody a goal, But it was an interesting concept. I think it would make for a very complicated, dynamic plot that I just can't write.
It becomes a George R.R. Martin epic scrawling thing, then, doesn't
right?
it?
I think my max is 350 to 400 pages. And that's like, next it's got to be the sequel. Got to be the sequel. So, do you find when you write, or what do you plot? Do you do plot in that way?
Well, I do scope out the 5, because essentially I boil down the 5-act structure to not a prescriptive thing, but I need to do these 5 things.
You have some semblance of where your characters are going. Okay, yeah. When you do this beautiful map, which by the way is gorgeous, do you know where your characters are going to end up?
Not always. Sometimes. And sometimes I start with the end. Sometimes I get the idea, just the way my brain works.
Right.
The ending. I'm like, oh, this would be an amazing ending. Now, how do I work backwards to make that ending land?
And it's not up to you, bro. It's up to the characters. And I think that's where you have to let go. It's like your children, right? I have small kids. When they do crazy shit, I just gotta let them do it. Just do your thing, because you can't always keep them safe forever.
It is that double mindset of
yep.
having an idea of where you're going, but at the same time being open to being surprised. I think that's so.
Yeah.
You do both. You are
Right.
made as a writer, really.
No, I was pissed at one time I was writing this, what I thought was going to be a successful novella that flopped. It didn't. But maybe we just need to revise it. Maybe I'll send it to you. But I had the end clearly in mind. It was a magical realism piece, and it was actually probably one of the truest horror pieces I've written. I'm not very good at horror. I try, but I end up with supernatural or magical realism. So in the end, she was supposed to go south to connect with the curanderas that were going to teach her craft, because she didn't know. She was a descendant of this long line of curanderas, and this other evil curandera was just fucking with her the whole plot and kidnapped her son. And I don't want to spoil that. Well, nobody's going to fucking read it. Killed her boy. Did all these fucking horrible things to her, right? And she didn't know why. And so she finds out at the end why this happens. And so then she was supposed to go south. And I was digging in, like, dude, the climax and the final battle scene, and she overcomes, and she's all fucked up, and she takes her baby in the car. She goes to Canada. And I was like, what the fuck just happened? I don't know shit about Canada. So now I got to research Canada.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I had the ending in mind. I knew exactly what village in the mountains of Oaxaca she was going to go to. She ends up in fucking Canada. And I'm just like, well, shit, why? And it's just, you just can't. I let it go. Yeah. And that's how I published it, But I haven't been able to write the sequel because I have no idea about Canada. I know friends who are Canadian and they're willing to, like, let me interview them. And I'm assuming it's not very different from northern Michigan and whatnot. But, it happens sometimes. And I think had I constrained it, something wrong would have happened in the telling of that story. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
well, I can always see with writers when they have forced something, and especially, and this is an interesting and I think quite relevant to your channel, given your political interest, because I often do see when people want to make a political point, they can force the narrative to make that point, and at that moment the writing is dead. I mean,
exactly 100%.
Even if you agree with them, even if you agree with their political position, it will just kill the narrative, because then you're reading something no better than a medieval morality fable, right?
Exactly. And it's the same thing for poetry, and you have to strike that balance. But listen, let's hear some of your beautiful work. I'm going to hear some of this amazing, whichever you want to choose.
Oh, wow, you've bigged me up a lot now, so I have to deliver.
May I say, you have a lovely voice, and I imagine it's a real pleasure to hear you read in person. Yes.
Well, I will read a bit from Dark Clarity. If that's just a short bit. I don't like people read forever.
I love it. I love it. You got 2 viewers. Thank you, viewers. You can also ask questions.
So this is from Dark Clarity. The only thing you need to know is the year is 1997.
Which is a fantastic year, by the way. That's when I finished my master's degree.
There you go. It is an auspicious year, as shall be discovered.
Very good.
Most stories start with waking up. This one starts with falling asleep. The cretin sat on a box of used things, one of many littered around the soon-to-be vacant apartment, staring out of bay windows overlooking the as-yet unwounded skyline of New York. Sunlight was fast fading from the cityscape, vanishing behind the temples of glazed glass. The apartment was bare, grey and soulless, a stripped container with 4 walls in which all his packaged worldly goods would be stored for the night before the removal team came in the morning. His instruments, the only thing he really cared about, were already on their way to Los Angeles by other means. The cretin took in the boxy grandeur of the Rockefeller building, the broadsword blade of the Empire State piercing the clouds, and the twin monolithic towers of the World Trade Center, like chromed slabs of ancient stone stolen from Celtic moorland and dumped amidst the architecture of modernity. It was the last time he would look at them for a while, so he wanted to savor their shape and color, and above all, the sheer arrogant bravado of their design. Clearly, the men and women that had constructed these modern ziggurats had never heard of the Tower of Babel and the moral lesson of overreaching. He smiled at the thought. His lips were so thin they were virtually non-existent, making his mouth look like a wound in his face, pregnant with white teeth. Despite his ugliness, There were men and women who would kill to kiss that mouth, would kill to feel one touch from him. And so it goes on.
Damn, I gotta say, and I'm not an ass kisser, but your prose is so beautiful. Are you a musician? Are you a musician?
I am a musician, actually. Yeah.
I can tell. You know what? It's rhythmic and musical. So gorgeous. Like I was like, damn, fuck yeah, rhythm. I find that musician writers, whether they do it on purpose or not, have this wonderful rhythm in their prose. It's just gorgeous. And your descriptions, oh my gosh, perfect balance. I'm telling you, I aspire to be like this. Just beautiful. Okay, you add your tension. These visuals, which is fantastic, and this metaphor. I think it was a simile of things that are not like what you're describing. The teeth. Oh my gosh! In the Tower of Babel, loved it all. Just amazing. Oh my gosh!
You're a fabulous writer as well, Jesus. So it's really it means a lot for you to say that. And
thank you. Nobody's ever told me that before.
Well, there you go. Said live in front of a live studio audience, as it were.
I will totally take this clip and be like, Joe Sales said I was a fabulous writer.
No, you are.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a long road for me. But I admire that. And that's one of the things that when I beta reader critique, I always tell them, you need to enhance the description. You need to add juxtaposed images, something. Your pacing is too fast. People don't fucking listen, but like I tell them.
A lot of the time, I see this real movement towards, like, I always hear this word stark prose and strict prose. And I think it's the Cormac McCarthy effect of, because he did it, everyone wants to do it. And
Cormac McCarthy is a master, and he has you see with the dialogue. That is the difference.
And the thing is I enjoy some of Cormac McCarthy's books immeasurably, but like he's doing that. I don't want to read 100, 1,000, 1 million other people doing that. He's doing his thing, and that's how he does it.
And that's exactly on point. Yes, and that's what
a great effect doing it. But we don't all have to do that. You can still write descriptions that are more lyrical or more poetic, and you can still inject a bit of, essentially a bit of purple into your narrative, a bit of purple into your prose.
Yep.
There's no shame in a bit of purple.
Purple it on, brother. Purple it on. I agree 100%. And you said something key that I also teach creative writing because I'm a nerd, which is my favorite class, by the way. I'm teaching this summer. Got a great lineup. So in my creative writing classes, I tell my students that it is okay to imitate, to find voice. I did the same thing with Gabriel Garcia Marquez. If you have not read him, which I'm sure you have, Gabriel Garcia Marquez in English and Spanish. What? Oh my gosh, Nobel Peace Prize Latin American writer, amazing. Also a communist. Thank you, Gabriel. Anyway, Gabriel Garcia Marquez had the best openers, usually in tension with one line. And that is why I imitated. But Gabriel Garcia Marquez tells stories how he tells them. He's also the grandfather of magical realism, but I don't copy his shit. I got my own magical realism, my own border identity that feeds into that magic, right? And so you got to understand that for Mexicans, the lines between magic and ordinary life are like this thin. For reals, dude.
One of my favorite writers is a Mexican writer called Dave Herrerias, who wrote some very interesting occult books.
You have to check that out.
They are not easily found. I will say that. They are genuinely not easily found. But,
okay, never mind. I don't want to do with that black magic. You can have it.
No, not to that extent. But they are. It's a really powerful evocation of history and
okay of that, not demons. Okay, cool. Evocation of history is fine. Okay, but anyway, what I was gonna say is that you have to tell your story your way, and I teach this to my students and also to regular writers, and I'm like, who are you trying to imitate? Because it doesn't sound like you, bro. And I often will, and I sound like a mother. I'm like, these are your strengths, and you should be proud of your strengths. Like, you travel, you've been to 10 different countries. Use that. What the fuck are you trying to be like this other historical fiction writer? Sorry, PC, I'm calling you out. Why do you gotta be Stephen King? I mean, look, Stephen King is fucking Stephen King, and even he will say that you gotta tell your story in your particular particular way.
Yeah.
Joe does it his way. I do it my way. You know.
It was really funny, and this is going to be quite ironic considering the bit of the book I've just read. But when I started my creative writing degree, which
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm very fortunate to get on, and had an amazing time for 3 years studying and writing. But just obviously this is in the UK, and so many people started writing stories set in America, and the lecturers were like, "Why are you doing this? You know, you're all Brits. Like, write about something that you're connected to."
Had they been to America is a real question, or did all they see was that popular culture bullshit?
I think that's the thing. Initially, we're so influenced by the US, and so many of the movies, right, are US based that you just kind of assume. And actually, funnily enough, I had spent some time in New York, and it's quite a significant location to me. So I was writing a story in New York, and I was kind of given a pass for it.
Right.
Just about.
Right.
And then I revisited New York in the opening of Dark Clarity as well. But
New York has changed tremendously since the 90s. It is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Post 9/11 New York is not the same. I mean, sometime we should have a chat about this, but yeah. So when were you in New York? And I'll tell you how it's changed.
I mean, I wasn't in New York in the 90s, so that's one of the things I had to heavily research for the book.
Oh, shit, yeah,
I was there in 2010.
Okay, so you've experienced the same New York I've experienced. We were there almost at the same time. I cannot get over how everybody was hustling for coin in New York. It was crazy. Saks Fifth Avenue hustling for coin, Chinatown hustling for coin, everywhere. And that's how I knew economic times were hard. And partly it was a 2008 crash, right? Partly. But shit, man, I told my husband, I'm like, yo, let's go to Jersey. I'm not saying a lot. That it was too much hustle. But still energetic. We went and saw a Broadway show. We went on a tour. We did every fucking tourist thing you can imagine.
I love that word. Yeah. I love that word, energetic, because it's one of the most energetic places I've ever been. And I've traveled a fair amount, and I was stunned by the get up and go. It's almost unhealthy, It's so get up and go.
If you trip and fall, nobody will help you. In Chicago, where I'm from, if you trip and fall, somebody's going to help you. Somebody's going to call 911. Somebody's going to flag down the ambulance, because that's how we are here. It's not quite big city. I mean, there's a lot of crime and shit. But New York, I was like, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, I better not have a fucking medical emergency or people.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw some crazy shit in New York too. Like, I remember we were doing this really late tour, and nobody cared. And I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Like, there were these youth who were jumping from the high place in the bus, you know how they have the awning, onto trash bags, like doing flips and parkour. And
like parkour, yeah.
Nobody was saying anything. The cops were in, and I'm thinking, motherfucker, what if you land on a goddamn needle? Sorry, Jesus. What if you land on a needle? What if you crack your head open? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, finally, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm a mom. I said, hey, what are you doing? You're going to get hurt. They didn't say nothing, but nobody said anything. Nobody stopped them. Nobody said, hey, there could be glass in the bags. And these were like kids, 13, 14. First of all, shouldn't have been out at 1 in the fucking morning, right? So it was that to me was like, if you do that shit in Chicago, well, first of all, you're going to get arrested by the cops or shot. Hate to say it, because that's how it is here. Maybe New York too. But you just, the fucking Main Street, nobody cared, dude. It was a trip. But I'm assuming I'm very curious, because I'm an Anglophile. I'm also a big nerd. I like 3 times, but I love everything British. How do you compare the energy of New York to the energy of London, if you've been?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I spent a fair amount of time in London. You kind of have to.
Why?
Well, there's so much going on there. I mean, I've been to book launches.
Okay, that makes sense.
And all that stuff. And it is just a fascinating place. The energy of London is similar in some ways, but London is London is hugely diverse. In a way, to summarize London as one entity is possibly a mistake, because its districts it's essentially a city that swallowed other cities as it expanded.
What about my Sherlock Holmes and fucking Doctor Who box? No.
There is, it is part of the culture in many ways, and it is a beautiful place. And it has a tremendous energy. It's more relaxed than New York, though.
Oh, thank God, because I plan on.
New York is crazy, but London is, yeah, London is energetic and busy, and I think it's diverse. It's just so many different areas, and they've all got these different feels. And you go to Peckham, you go to Shoreditch. That, you know, like,
And more importantly, if I were to trip and fall, would somebody call an ambulance for me?
yeah, I think someone would.
See,
I
that,
like
that is the difference.
If you spoke to someone on the tube, though, you get stabbed. So it's a swings and roundabouts.
Fuck off!
It's just swings and roundabouts.
Mary Joseph. Wow, that's crazy, dude. Hey, let's hear another part of your book. Or you got something else you want to share with us?
Yeah, I can read a bit more.
In that lovely voice.
Oh, you're very kind.
When
you hear yourself speak, it's always weird, isn't it? It's always
what? With what?
Whenever you like hear yourself speak on a recording or something, you always hate your own voice. What?
I sound like a fucking prepubescent cartoon. I'm like, damn it. In my voice, I sound very serious. And, you know, I have like a sexy, sultry voice. But then when I hear myself, I'm like, what the fuck happened? Like, what? You know?
Yeah, my voice sounds a lot more mid-register to myself. But when I hear it on a recording, it just sounds like incoherent. Like it's like really weird. But I think that's the curse that everybody has, unfortunately.
So your voice is also deep and sexy too? Your internal voice, and it's very clear.
It's very kind of you.
I wonder if everybody hears themselves that way. We should do like a study. Like how do you, because I sound pretty damn dope. But I know that's not the case. Sorry, YouTube viewers. I wish there was a way to
you have a clear voice. That's like really important.
Man, some motherfucker told me the other day, I don't know who the fuck it was. I almost punched him, but I'm a pacifist, but the inclination was there. That I talk like I'm from New York on crack or some shit. And I think it was my husband. And I'm like, the fuck you just said?
I think it was my husband.
I think so. And I'm like, look here, motherfucker. I love you. No, listen up. I said, the reason we talk fast is because we're smart. Boom. Right? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Just agree with me, Joe. You're my team.
Yeah, I know. I've got to agree.
I apologize. I'm sorry. I have the mouth of a hooker, but the heart of a saint. And that's putting hookers down. I have the mouth of a union worker, construction union worker, and the heart of a saint. There you go. Sorry. I'll stop cursing, kind of.
Well, I'll just actually pick up where I left off.
Yes, please.
This is one of those books where reading somewhere in the middle, I'll have to give so much context.
Oh, I'm hooked. And let me give that vibe so people can download the book on your very Go ahead, let's hear it. I'm so excited for this.
So, despite its ugliness, there were men and women who would kill to kiss that mouth, would kill to feel one touch from him. Valentine Killshot, his band, his own towering monolith of ego, had signed an incredibly large record deal with Warner Bros., so large that it would change their way of life forever. The 4 band members thought they had lived well before. It had been a long time, after all, since the days of driving a beaten-down van from one dive bar to the next, of writing songs in cold, abandoned studios manned only by failed art students who still believed the industry lied that the cream always rose to the top. 9 years, in fact, since Jed had first picked out the chord that would become their calling card track, Wolftown.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened that wasn't willed. That was a law of life that Jed May knew well. In the same way, nothing came into being of its own accord. Nothing was self-created except, perhaps, being itself, the forces that govern the cosmos. Fawning journalists would beg for Jed's insight, ask how he created such storms of sound, how he managed to trap emotions inside chord progressions, transmute physical experience into a drug-like auditory dose. The answer was simple. He didn't. He didn't create the sounds any more than the blacksmith created the ore and base metal they worked with to fashion a blade. He drew them from someplace else and forged them into a shape of his desiring.
Nice.
It was time to revisit that place. The record label will be looking for Valentine Killshot's 4th album soon. A world tour was planned, starting in Los Angeles, which would become Jed and the band's new home, and then venturing across the globe. He had already an inkling of the album title, a few disparate melodies, but he needed to concretize them, to hear and steal and and seal and see and feel them. And then it goes on again. But
it's lovely. And again, that music, it's so
yeah, you got the music.
great. It's, I mean, but no, I'm saying the music of the language is so present to me. You know, it's beautiful, beautiful. So wonderful, wonderful. So we have been talking about traveling, and where is your favorite place to travel? And second question that's related to the first, do you travel as a writer? Like, do you have your little notebook and you take notes and shit and collect stories from people?
No writer should go anywhere without their notebook.
I know, right? That's what I say.
Absolutely, yeah. All times. Although mine is, I've got a new notebook and I love it, and I'm getting quite into having a A4 notebook now because I can draw as well. But it's quite clunky to carry around. But,
nice. I have a little one that's about yay big that I carry with me.
That's perfect, right? That's
hard. It has to be hard too because there's always like kids' toys and shit in my backpack, you know. So, that's awesome. So, favorite place that you visited? Why?
I mean, I've been to some pretty esoteric places, but I actually think my favorite place to visit is the city, the magical city, no less, of Glastonbury. It sounds ridiculous, but it is a sacred place, and it's where the Chalice Well is. It's where the Tor is. It's allegedly where Avalon is, and King Arthur went to.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's this town that's just steeped in and saturated in history and myth and magic and lore, and it's got an incredible. It doesn't feel like any other place in the UK or indeed on Earth. It's a truly magical place.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's just, and it's a paradise for book lovers because it's full of all these independent bookshops that have somehow survived for centuries.
Let me tell you what, Joe. That's what makes me sad because my husband and I travel a lot. It makes me sad and happy and overjoyed. We've been to all these small town America tourist places, and one of the prime things was the bookstore. And the bookstores are dying, dude. I hate to say it's Amazon, but whenever I see a bookstore, I just go all ape shit crazy and buy as many books as I can, which drives my husband nuts. But regardless, books are treasures. And it makes me sad that people have gone for convenience. And I think we need to have a resurgence of bookstores. And if the pandemic has taught us anything, is that y'all need to read. Everybody needs to read.
Yeah, totally.
But that sounds like a dream place for me. I love the smell of books. I love talking to bookshop because just the owners are also avid readers and they will recommend some great books that you just didn't even see on Goodreads or anywhere, you know. So I love that. I appreciate that. And I maybe shit, man. Maybe Avalon is there. You never know, man.
Oh, when I went there, I definitely felt a current of something.
That's awesome.
It will make you a believer, or at least it made me a believer.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. I love it.
You feel like you could just step off the beaten track or open a door somewhere and
we'd be joined by a celebrity. We have Ross.
Look at this man coming into the chat. Ross Jeffrey.
Your ears must have been burning earlier, Ross.
Yeah, we were talking about.
I would love, sometime you and me, Joe, we're gonna meet face to face. I'm gonna go hit up Ross Jeffrey and toilet paper his house. Just kidding, I'm not. I'm gonna go say hi to you. Awesome, like-minded people. We're finding out. Joe is my brother from another mother, like in England or somewhere. No, that's amazing. I think that there are places on this earth that are sacred. And they're also conducive to that creative energy. And I swear I'm not a fucking weirdo. I'm not one of those crazy people. Sedona of all places was one. Sedona was one despite all the commercials bullshit. And I actually try to tune into, all that. But I also think that another place that was like that for me was this indigenous community. It may have been that I was drunk off my ass. Okay, that's very true. But I went to this indigenous community. And indigenous communities are autonomous. So you have to understand that they have their own rules. And they were having a Saints Feast, which is a 3-day feast. And indigenous people have this drink called pulque, which looks like semen. It's really gross. But it's a sacred drink that you drink in a circle to tell the truth. and it comes straight from the maguey plant. It's very sacred. It's very good. But for the rest of Mexicans, they treat it like it's a party, right? Except you only find it regionally because of one shit. So I go to this town, and I hadn't eaten, and the bus ride was like 3 hours, and my uncle's lover, who's now I guess his wife, she asked me if I would drink pulque, and I said sure, I'll drink some pulque, and she asked me, do you swear it? When a Mexican says, do you swear it, or a Latino, you can't back down. It's like a triple dog there. You just can't back down. And I said, sure, I'll swear it. She comes with this fucking tumbler this big of uncured pulque. And I had a drink and I hadn't eaten. I'm like, you fucking whorebag. You know, but I'm going to tell you what, I had the most amazing mystical experience. It was amazing. Really? It was just great. Amazing. The only thing is I didn't know how I walked home, and I opened my big mouth and I told the mom that I would pray the rosary with her in the morning because I'm a devout Roman Catholic still. Don't judge me. I'm a liberation theologist at heart. So
no judgment here.
I got home at 1. Here comes the mom getting my still drunk ass up at 4. And I was like,
that's the best time to pray, though, is when you're tripping balls, basically.
I couldn't look bad before the mob. But the thing about indigenous communities is that they have this being big tamboras, huge tamboras. So we're outside the church. I'm just like, fucking bullshit, dude. And so I've never forget that rosary. It was like the most penitential rosary. I'm not sure how I didn't throw up in the church. I had a fever for 3 days after that. That's how fucking it is. I'm telling you, man. And I was laughing because there was a baptism. This is why we were there, right? And everybody remembered me because this is a small town. And they're like, you want pulque? You want pulque? I'm like, no, man, I can barely sit up. And then it's one of those feasts where you have your bouillon. Some of it was really gross, like chicken bouillon, but it tasted good, right? And then dish after dish after dish until you get to the pinnacle dish, which is mole, which I'm sure you're familiar with. It's a thick chocolatey red sauce. So
I'm not. That sounds
it's so tasty. And traditional mole, where these women have been cooking all night and stirring so it doesn't stick, because chile can be very sticky. And they're like, you don't like mole? You don't want to eat the main food? I'm like, I'm telling you, Joe. But in that community was so much peace and cooperation that I thought, damn, this is what heaven is like right here. Everybody helping each other, learning from each other. Everybody knew who I was. Apparently I was a drunk American, which is okay. The crazy American. but that to me felt like a very sacred space. And the fact that prayer and music was infused in the community, it was just gorgeous. And the church itself was, even in my hungover stupor, if you felt uplifted, like really uplifted, like the spirit was there. Might have been on the candles, but but
I definitely want to visit.
Oh my gosh, the only thing that's in Oaxaca is a bit dangerous right now is the narcotraficantes are horrible, and not all of Mexico, but there's been quite a few disappearances, and the teachers are very militant, and I support 100% Oaxaca. That fight against our American corporations trying to fuck up with their educational system, pushing our standardized tests, Peers saying, fuck yourself. All our books. This is a fucking capitalist, like an annihilation that's happening in Mexico. So these indigenous communities have risen up and they have their own curriculum. They don't use the state curriculum. They infuse everything with art and music and culture and all the lessons. It is a thing of beauty. It is what community education should be. But because the teachers are so militant, they've had the government kills them. Just flat out kills them. And it makes me very sad that they could have such a wonderful vision of a better world, and the military, with our support, is killing them. So I really want to visit because these teachers not only educate themselves, they're trying to educate other Mexican teachers, explain what this is like. They do international training. Then I'm like, hell to the yes. So they're very curious about our creative forms, and I'm very curious to see their music, their embroidery, all that. But could you imagine, you're as a musician, all of their curriculum is based on music. They learn science with music, cooking with music, and then the kids get to choose what talent they want to develop. And that's what they study all year. And I'm like,
I would say that music is the most universal art form of all.
True.
Literature and various other art, and painting. Painting is incredible, but static often. That's the challenge of it. Literature is fluid, but it has the prerequisite of needing to understand the language that it's written in.
This is true.
Music, of course, can bypass all that, provided you have ears.
Right.
You don't even people who are deaf, who are deaf can feel the music. Yeah.
Ooh, that's beautiful. Yeah, and I would say, like, I listen to Chinese music and I can tell when it's a love song.
Yeah.
Or when it's like a "fuck you, I dumped you" kind of song, and that's the thing that it transcends. You're right. You're absolutely right.
There's a feeling of destiny in me about this meeting, because I grew up listening essentially to predominantly Mexican music. And like Carlos Santana was my god, and El Mariachi, I think it came because my dad and mum introduced me, probably too young, to like the filmography of Rodriguez and Tarantino, and of course they drew so heavily on Mexican influence for all their soundtracks.
Tarantino.
So similar, I'm listening to songs in Spanish, and I don't speak a lick of Spanish, but yet I can tell, I pick up the odd word like corazon or whatever, but Gates of Hell,
Santana was Chicano. Okay, here, Ross, our good mates, awesome chat, man. Gates of Hell is an awesome piece of artwork that I reference often in my work. Ooh, good to note. And by the way, shout out to Ross, who's written a fantastic books. Let me see, I can do this. Juniper, Tome. Oh shit, what was the other one that I haven't read? The Tethered.
I know.
And I'm doing to this. Shout out with my middle finger. I'm just kidding now. That Tome was nominated for a Bram Stoker, so you're a winner in my heart, brother. Hope you get nominated again. And may you also be nominated and win. It's always fun when your friends get nominated for the same award, and then you like put them against each other on social media. I do that to my poet friends a lot because they've been nominated for the push cart, and I'm like, wink, wink, David. Wink, wink, Kathy.
It's like, just remember your old friend. But I was really lucky.
Ross, remember us when you make it to the big time.
Yeah, when you make it to the big leagues, remember your old pal
That's what I was just talking about. See, you miss half the show, bro. You hungover. It's that his prose to me, it carries a particular kind of music to it. It's gorgeous, beautiful. So he wants to know where that style came from. You genius.
That's a very good question. I mean, I think there's several things to say about that. Firstly, I am also a poet, and snaps. I took the American snaps, which have come over here now as well. I used to write a lot of poetry, and I went off it for 6 years for various reasons, which are long to get into. But I've returned to doing it, and poetry really is the intersection between music and literature, right? So once you start to explore that, then that does start to bleed into and prose does have rhythm, as you rightly say, Jesus, and you have to, it's a different type of rhythm to poetry, but it's there. So I guess reading a lot of poetry and writing a lot of poetry initially, before I was kind of a novelist, has influenced my prose writing quite a bit. Playing a musical instrument is a big thing, but I think partly it is the type of writing that I love to read is lyrical. And I remember when I read The Lord of the Rings, one of the things that blew my mind about it, that isn't talked about very much, is how he's written it in an oral style, because he was a scholar of the oral tradition of Beowulf and Saxons and stuff. So when you read that book, it's just honey.
It's music, totally.
Total music, and so I guess all those things that I, adored and were this big thing that I looked up to, and as you say, you have to start by imitation. You have to start.
But not end there and find your voice. And I think it takes time. Even with poetry, and again, it was my comrade Matt who pointed out how much research he does for his pieces. And I had to do the same thing with a poem I have to memorize. Shit, that I got to perform in a little bit. He also taught me how to memorize poetry, which was a huge leap. Like later in life, I'm gonna remember last Saturday as a leap moment for me, because I was able to perform my first poem, which by the way was the first poem I wrote in college when I started figuring out my voice. I performed it without looking at the cheat. I was like, fuck you. But oh shit, I lost my train of thought. See, I was getting all wrapped up in my own damn story.
That's all right.
Poetry
Is memorable.
Oh, discipline. The discipline of writing poetry is something that it took me a while to say, okay, you're right. It does take a lot of discipline, research. It's also inspirational. Dreams too. You were talking about dreams earlier, way before the show. That I think it's wonderful. And I don't see this happens to students, new writers. It is okay to be a poet and a short story writer in many genres and a novelist and a songwriter. You don't have to be one. And I get students sometimes who are like, I'm a poet. I'm not a fiction writer. And I'm like, we're going to correct that because no. And because I cover playwriting and nonfiction writing. And what they find is that they are poets indeed. And they have been poets. They just didn't want to see it. And I was the same way. God bless Barbara Anderson, who was an award-winning American poet. And she was my only poetry teacher. No, she was my only poetry teacher. And she kept encouraging me to find my voice and read these writers. And at first I was offended because I'm like, bitch is racist. She's having me read all these Mexican American writers. But the reason she did that is because they had shared experiences like I do. I didn't, sorry, Barbara, if you're still alive. But in her encouraging me to find my voice, it first led me to read a lot of other writers. And I was resistant. I don't want to read no Mexican writers because I'm like, I'm being my own person because I'm unique, right? But when I started to finally not be such a dumbass and open myself up to reading other writers and how they told their stories and their poetry, that's what helped me out. And imitation, I never imitated poets, but I did imitate Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I took, of course, Stephen King. I love his young adult fiction, his point of view. That's probably one of the few things I've been able to master is the point of view of a child, right? Which he does very well.
It's so hard. It's one of the hardest things about Dark Clarity is getting the voice of the character that isn't introduced yet, but the 11-year-old girls. That was really difficult. It was really tough.
You know what's funny? Like when people like, I'm a mom of two. I have a 6-year-old and an 11-year-old going on 21. You know, and I'm very present in their lives and their friends, and they don't believe that children are smart. Or that they can have sex at 12. I'm like, oh, brother, you got to come to an American school and see how many pregnant girls and mama, daddy boys there are with the babies and the, you know, and I'm not saying that it's not a race thing across the board, not a class thing across the board. There's something very strange happening in America where sex is so prevalent, it's not respected in a very particular weird way, you know? That's not, I mean, English, you're probably like, what the fuck is she talking about? Let me tell you what, it's a problem. Right, it's a problem.
No, in fact, I often thought the UK was worse in a way because
hell no, we take it in spades, brother. And then we make
legal drinking age is very low here.
Guilty about it because of the fucking Puritan. Thank you for that fucked up Puritan tradition that has on the one hand made sex such a terrible taboo, but on the other is so fucking commercialized. It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's that double think, right? It's in every advert. It's in every, but yet at the same time, it's forbidden. And I was talking about this on my, I think either it was my Patreon or an essay I was working on for someone. I can't remember which one now, but essentially something that is referred to in kind of Hermetic thought as the Horus Set dynamic. So you have Horus is the war god of the Egyptians, who is
Horus. Got it.
Horus, Horus. He's strict. He's puritanical. He's righteous, and this is a good thing. We need this in society. But then you have Set, who is the snarling, animalistic, no rules, no boundaries. You know, Set tries to have sex with his own mum, and then he tries to have sex with Horus, and then he has no rules. So he's the catabolism, and Horus is anabolism, and what. Going either way is too much. You need to have the middle ground. So you need the balance of restraint, so we don't fall into hedonism, but we need a little bit of freedom. However, our society seems to be going in this weird direction where we're managing to have both in the wrong way.
Absolutely. You know,
I've never seen anything like it.
You know, the funny thing is, and then maybe if you want to close out with, we've said so much, And I love it. I love you. You're amazing.
Thank you. You too.
I find it almost criminal that, let's say you're watching a movie with your kids. This happens when I'm with other families, and as soon as the sex scene comes up, they cover their eyes. Don't look. But then they can watch all the violence and gore. And
there was a famous example of a movie. I cannot remember for the life of me which movie it was now, but essentially there was a scene where there was a naked woman in it, and the ratings people were saying, we can't have this. This is going to bump your movie from a 15 to an 18. And obviously that reduces the market, so they didn't want that.
Well, no shit.
So the solution they came up with to keep the film at a 15 rating was not to hide the naked woman. It was to cover her in blood so that you couldn't see the nipples.
Fuck!
That brought the rating of the film down from 18 to a 15. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Was it Carrie? Just kidding. No. Oh my gosh, that's so stupid, dude. Like, I don't know. I'm hoping I'm raising my kids to be good human beings and accepting. Simona, can you say hi to my comrade Joe?
Speaking of which.
Oh my Lord, look at what she got. Let me see this American commercialism. A fucking unicorn puppy that barks. What the fuck is this? I love it. What's his name? Come say hi to my comrade.
Surreal. That was like the internet made manifest.
Can you say hi to Joe?
Hi.
He can't see you, honey. You're not on the shot. This is my number 6, and she does not say bad words, and she calls me out on it, Joe. I think I owe her like $5.
That's good, right? That's good. That's a little bit of chorus.
Love you, chocolate face. Go wash your face, Cochinita. Get that dog out of here. Get your cupcake out of here. He's loud. So we're supposed to get a puppy, and we've applied to 3 American organizations. No kill shelters, anti-cruelty society, pause. Nothing. No response. We got permission from the landlord. We have money to buy a dog. Nothing. I'm like, what the shit? So I got her a hamster.
So the solution is rainbow unicorn dog.
God, yes. Hey, listen, this has been so wonderful. You've given enough advice, I think, to young. What would you say to somebody who has mastered the craft? What advice do you have for them?
To someone who has mastered the craft.
I believe you have mastered the craft. Don't put yourself.
You think I've mastered the craft?
Oh,
no!
yes.
Every day is a school day.
I love you. I love you.
You have to keep learning.
School day.
But what would I say to somebody? That's a very good question. I mean, all kinds of cliched advice abounds in my mind as you ask that question.
That's riffraff.
But I think the ultimate thing I would say to somebody, especially somebody who, in this modern world where we don't have much time and it can be really hard to devote that time to yourself or your own artistic craft, I would say little and often is king. Little and often, if you only do 200 words, then you've done something. And doing 200 words every day rather than 2,000 words every week is better in the long run. So little and often is what I would say, I think, to somebody who is starting out. And that may be too basic for some people, and I apologize if so. But little and often.
No, I tell
my writing group.
Yeah, enjoy it for sure. I tell my students the same thing. Even if they can only spend 10 minutes, 10 minutes is 10 minutes, and it will add up. Mm-hmm. Especially like they maintain that discipline that I've been talking about. I know I keep saying that, but that's the advice I give. I remember Jack Hirschman is a poet laureate. He's also a comrade of mine from San Francisco. Mm-hmm. In my 30s, last year in my 30s, I went and sought some advice, and I was like, oh, poor Jesus. I said, Jack, how do I write a novel? And he says, take a piece of paper and a pencil and you write.
Yeah.
I was expecting some deep, profound advice. Best fucking advice I ever got. That and how to switch off the guilt was also something fundamental for me as a woman of color and a writer. And that was because of my comrade Sarah Menifee, who was like, the reason you feel guilty is because you're not writing and you miss it and you love it. And I was like, holy shit, bump. Yeah. Then I was able
Writing is a therapeutic process. I was discussing with a friend of mine. I don't know if he's watching. If he is, Rob, I love you, who is a brilliant filmmaker, indie filmmaker, but he's kind of transitioning a bit now into more writing.
Nice.
And I was chatting to him about it, and I was kind of like, oh, why? And obviously I was pleased as a writer myself, but I was kind of asking him why, and he was saying that, he said the writing's so therapeutic. And I thought, yeah, it's uniquely powerful. And one of the things about fiction in particular is it offers an opportunity that biography and nonfiction do not, which is to rewrite narratives.
Yes.
And we start to enter really profound spiritual and psychological territory where traumas and other, negative experiences and beliefs, limiting beliefs, can be overcome by the process of creating fiction. And the endings of my own that have shattered me to write are normally the ones where I hovered on the precipice knowing that in real life X happened and that had this impact.
That's amazing.
And changing and holding back from it and saying, no, I choose another destiny. And often the muse was insisting that too. The muse would often be, no, and often it's a change from negative to positive, or at least that's what I've found. I've often found that, the personal experience, the event that's triggered you to write something is, often quite difficult, traumatic, and you want to set that down on paper, and you get to a certain point, and there's a redemption in the muse. The muse shows you what should have happened, or what could have happened, and that can be truly healing.
No, that's amazing. I love it, and I love this description because it's not the same thing as journaling or writing to. I mean, I think that's amazing. That's probably one of the best analysis I've ever heard on the show thus far. So thank you. So listen, why don't we close out with you telling us where people can find you on your socials? And I am going to play a song that was specific for this channel. But, oh shit, now that I said that, I just got a new computer. Thank you, husband. And let me see if I can find Libera.
Now you cannot find it.
Well, it was a specific song that he crafted for this, and it's got Spanish in it. But I don't think it transferred over because, well, we'll play We Need Peace. So, that pisses me off. I'm going to have him resend it to me. Yeah, he did this beautiful song for me called Libera Radicalmente, which means liberate radically. And he did it in Spanish and English because Brother Man is part Puerto Rican and part Jewish. Amazing spirituality too from that union.
Yeah.
But what the hell? Let's just play this one then.
You could just do Malaguena Salarosa.
I could, but I get in deep shit if I don't find the right.
Oh no, copyright. Yeah, no.
Oh my gosh, I get so pissed. Like sometimes this mother effer, it totally. Oh, what the shit? I guess we'll just play capitalism again after capitalism. That this is a good one too. Let's play Hoolstan. I love this one. But let me wind it to the beginning. Oh, you're playing after capitalism. Just a good one. So Joe, where can people find you on your socials, my friend?
They can find me on Twitter at Joseph Wordsmith. And they can also find my website, which is themindflayer.com. And on my website, they can find articles and reviews. They can find links to my editing work, more information about editing and what it's like working with me. And they can also find a link to all my books there as well. So,
and I did share the bit.ly too, so that I hope will help you out. But listen, we had one more question from Ross that I missed real quick. That we can't let go of the amazing Ross. It says, I was wondering, is there anything you wouldn't write, genre-wise? Oh God, yes, romance. Yes.
Oh yeah, some writers I know make a killing with a pen name writing romance.
Sorry, romance writers.
I have attempted. It's not a true romance book because it had magic in it and various other things, and it was quite dark. But I'm not closed-minded to any genre, and I think that a lot of genres can be really interestingly blended. Having said that, I find it very difficult to write without some form of supernaturalism in my work, and I guess that's because my life has been riddled with supernatural events.
Oh my God, that's gonna be the second show, bro.
It feels dishonest not to include it. The closest I ever came to a non-supernatural novel is my upcoming one, which is The Tunnel, which is coming on June 29th. That one is less supernatural than some of the others, but still
horror. Still horror.
It's horror. Yeah. It's a horror novel about a giant crocodile in London. It's obviously kind of not just about that, but
very New York.
After Dark Hilarity, I wanted to explore the London setting. I've been there quite a few times, and I just had this kind of vision of a crocodile in London. There's a lot more to it, and how that came about, and a conversation I had with somebody who told me a story about the Ruzizi River in Burundi in Africa, and it's fascinating stuff. But perhaps best left for another time. But good question, Ross.
Let's do it. Thank you, Ross. And we're gonna have to have you on the show, Ross. Busy man who's been nominated for a Bram Stoker Award. Anyway. Listen, Joe, this has been fabulous. You are amazing. I consider you a brother. I learned a lot from you. I hope you enjoyed this. And if you viewers like this, please subscribe, tell your friends about it. If you want to come on the show, I'm looking for guests, like almost every day of the week. Please DM me or post a comment, and I'll get back to you, okay? Just don't be foul, and don't be like a fascist, because no. Welcome.
That would not gel well with it, with the
9. That would not. Sorry, I just said 9 like a German, but no, not that they're fascist. But you know what I'm saying. Sorry. Scratch that. We're going to delete that from the YouTube.
Thank you so much for having me, Jesus. It's been a real pleasure.
You're my best to your wife as well. I'll tell you, without our partners, we are nothing.
Absolutely.
So thank God for her to support you, and you producing this amazing work. And I can't wait to read this. I pre-ordered your next book, brother. We didn't pitch it.
Thank you so much.
Next time. All right. Have a blessed day. Love you. Peace out.
You too.
Oh, wait, that's not how I close on my show. This is how I close on my show. Do what you love to the max. Read as many books as you can, and write on.
Wicked.
I'm rusty, dude. Later, bro.